So this meeting may be recorded and your image or voice may be broadcast. Mr. Hunter, you're on.
Hey, I'll leave the order at 36. All right, everybody. Start with review of the school facility use policies and applications. So, do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, prior to COVID, this subcommittee got together and we're going to start reviewing the facility use policy, and then everything was put on hold to kind of like pick that up again. I think Jeff has handed out a copy of the current policy, that the school committee policy. There's a slight change on that. You'll see that in red. It's suggested change. And then what we would like to do is we flip that policy page over. We flip that over. That used to be the regulations that are in school committee policy right now. That's the one thing. We'd like to strike the entire regulations that are on the books at this point and replace it with this. Okay, so just a little background. Does everyone know Elaine? Everybody knows Elaine. Elaine Karen is Kevin's administrative assistant. So Kevin, Elaine, and I worked on this together.
Okay.
We reviewed the current policy and the current regulations, and then we looked at what was actually happening in our schools, and then we came up with this document here. So we did, I think we've talked about this again before COVID. We had done our research and gathered policies for building use from other school districts around us. I think we had North Middlesex, we had Auburn, we had Tantascwa. And we like the format of the Tantascwa one and their way in which they decided which groups would have one preference to a space in the building and two charges associated. So we kind of use that format. You guys hop in anything. So one thing that was we found was nice was they had an opening letter that went with their application process. So we asked Sheila if we could put something there, and she has done that. Somehow we got, oh, this must be your copy, Kevin, the highlights, because I think I took all the highlights off there. All right, so what we have decided is the best alternative is to have different rental groups. And there were actually two fees. This is on the there's actually two sets of fees: a rental for the space and then a custodial charge. Okay. At the bottom of page 2, we identified what the rental groups are. So group A would be recognized school or groups based in the Quabbin communities, but not necessarily established as nonprofits. For example, we're talking about the Quabbin youth sports teams, the PTOs, school councils, the music association, which is pro music at the middle high school, and booster clubs. Those would be in group A. We also put in group A when a town needs a building for a town meeting or any kind of town meeting. Group B would be nonprofit groups, for example, the boys group, Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, that have proof of tax exempt status. And then group C is kind of like everybody else, for-profit camps, events, or businesses that aren't sponsored by the district. Okay. On the next page, we came up with a proposed school use and personnel fee schedule. Now you'll see, and when we first looked at the Tantascwa one, we're like, well, why does group A and group B all say nothing? And we figured it out, I think. Group A and group B for renting space in the building would have no charge. So the Quabbin Youth Basketball wants to use the gym, no charge for the space. Boy Scouts are another similar non-tax or not-for-profit or nonprofit with proof of that evidence of that status would not pay for the use of the space. But there's a separate group A and group B because we also use that status as priority preference in using the space. Because space is limited. Sometimes there's a lot of different organizations wanting a certain area. So group A gets the first choice of space, group B is the second choice. Okay. And then there's group C, and group C are outside businesses, for-profit type of activities that are charging for their service or whatever they're doing to whatever people are coming to the event. And we feel that they should be paying for the space they're using. So if somebody wants to hold a yoga class in one of our buildings and they're charging the people who come to yoga class, if they wanted to run this business and not have it out of their home, they have to rent a storefront somewhere and pay rent. So we feel that they should be paying the school rent.
Is that what's happening now with the entities that are doing that?
Yes. Okay. Yes, but what was also happening were some of those group A people, group A organizations that were put into group A, some were paying, some were not.
Gotcha.
So now we're kind of making it a level thing. What we did on the group rates is we actually had rates to rent space in our buildings earlier, in our earlier policy that had not been looked at for years. So we basically said something used to be $50 a half day. That's how it was before, a half day. And a half day was denoted as 4 hours. It would be $12.50 an hour. So we bumped those $12.50 an hour from years ago to $15 an hour. And if it was a 20-hour space, we bumped it up a little bit more, but not outrageous. We don't do. On the other side of things, so there's two different fees: renting space and paying for custodial time. I hope this is clear when somebody that has no idea what we're talking about reads it, because we went, the whole team went through it several times. But what we're saying basically is no one has to pay for custodial time if custodians are on duty. So that's kind of like what the first sentence says. There's no charge for custodial staff during the school year, during the school week, and up to 9 p.m. So if the kids have been in school today, and the custodians are on staff, generally they're on staff until 10 or 11 o'clock, but we don't want a group leaving at 10 o'clock because the custodians have to stay clean. So we say up to 9 p.m. We don't want anybody in the buildings after 9:30 p.m. So we want you to get your stuff together, get out, the custodian can come in and clean the bathrooms, all that. During school breaks, winter, February, April, and summer, usually we make some changes to the custodial staff schedules. And sometimes we won't have that 9 p.m. deadline because we may move all the custodians to first shift in summer to get whatever the workload is done for the summer. So that time may change during those time periods. Now, after 9 p.m. on weekdays, or if it's Saturday, Sunday, holidays, school breaks, and we will require a custodian on premises, then a fee schedule will be set. We have a caveat. I got a caveat.
I'm like, I usually take the trash out.
All users of Quabbin Regional Middle High School shall be required to pay a custodial fee and overhead fee. We broke it into two units just so people understand where this came from. Beyond 9 p.m. Monday through Friday and any time on Saturday or Sundays. So no matter when it is, if people want to use this building on a weekend, we are requiring a custodian to be on staff. This building is just way too large to have a group come in and no one be on staff for a number of reasons, school safety reasons. If there's an emergency situation, we feel we need to have a staff member here. We have a caveat for everybody. We looked at our current custodial staff salary schedule that's in the negotiation bargaining unit. And the highest rate of the most senior staff member is $52 an hour on an overtime rate. So they're working Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, those types of things. And the $10 overhead rate is $10 an hour to cover things like lights and heat and things like that. So we're saying $62 an hour if you're required to have a custodian on staff.
So that would apply to, say, school vacations.
Mhm.
Okay. So that rate will cover if I have somebody on Sunday at a double time rate for
Organizations requesting school facility use at any of the elementary schools may choose to pay the custodial staff an overhead rate, or may choose to have a contact person responsible for cleaning up, closing, building safety, and security. However, if the district administration deems that the space used is not clean to district standards, finds lights on, doors and windows not secure, the organization shall agree to pay a non-compliance fee of, and we just threw out a number, $100, and shall not be allowed to reserve the space for future use until such non-compliance fee is paid in full. So like Peggy said, she takes responsibility for the Quabbin Youth Basketball in New Brain. She said, I'm a responsible person. In the back on the application, we're asking for that contact person, the one that's responsible, to be listed on the application form. And then if we walk in and we find out, we've had some situations in Hardwood, we walk in and it's not clean. We don't like to look at it that way when kids are coming into the building in the morning, and we would assess a fee for that cleanup. Use of outdoor areas, including athletic fields, will not require payment of custodial fee if the user does not access the building for every purpose. So if Babe Ruth is using the baseball field out here, and they don't need bathroom access because there's a portable unit, then they don't need to pay any fee for the use of the outdoor space. But again, if they don't leave the area as they found it and as we asked, then we're going to charge a fee for non-compliance there. Walk up and there's the baseball field's all full of trash and the dugouts are full of trash, then they're going to pay for them.
Are there receptacles there for them to put trash in, or do they take your trash away?
They put them on that and we empty them in the morning.
Okay.
Indoor events and outdoor events who wish to pay the custodial fee shall have designated indoor bathroom access in an area convenient to the event space. So for example, if somebody's going to come, if somebody wants to come in here and have, say, a holiday fair, and it's not school related, we assign the bathrooms. We don't want you running over to this side of the building to use the bathroom. We're going to say these are for you. And the same thing if a baseball team said, you know, we really prefer to have the bathrooms open for our, okay, you can, but these are the ones you're going to use. We're going to come over with this. Just trying to, again.
Well, that's good, because you don't want to clean and 40 bathrooms, just
Right.
couple is good, yeah.
Right. That was our thought.
Yeah.
So that's the general concept of what we're trying to put together. Make the charges more equitable and also try to not charge Quabbin Youth Sports or other entities like the PTO and make it fair, because there was, I think, certain Quabbin Youth Sports were having to pay, like, what's the basketball thing here? QIBL was paying here, but not the elementary schools. So
Well, do they pay for the tournament though? Because,
No, they pay for you. No.
yeah, that's their travel program, right? I'm sure you know, understand.
The travel on weekends. is-
Right, because there's a fee assessed for that.
Well, there will be a fee. On weekends, there's a fee. There's at least a custodial fee. For everybody in that group, everybody's paying a custodial fee. If it's outside the time, the custodian is on staff. So no matter what.
Did they do that before? Because there was custodial on the weekends, I thought. Right?
Custodians on the weekend.
The custodians are on the weekend for events. They're not on events. For events.
No, I just thought I saw them when I would come to say a basketball travel game, there was a custodian around.
That's why.
Right, okay, okay,
Game,
yeah,
yes.
okay, that's what I'm just,
Yeah, they're not generally on staff.
Right, right.
And that's why we have the overtime fee if they have.
sure. Now, town events, like you're saying, like the craft fairs and church fairs and things like that, they will be charged the custodial fee.
If it's on weekends, we need to have someone there, yes,
Okay,
unless.
somebody takes the responsibility.
Right, like the new Braintree Craft Fair,
Mhm.
if somebody it's a contact person, then there's no fee, but we come in and we see trash in the
Right.
cafeteria, down the hall into the gym, the next thing we're charging you.
Okay. That's just as thing.
And the structure on the money was changed, basically our thought process on it was we were losing money water costs. So for the rates that were currently in the policy, depending upon who we had on custodian, we were supplementing out of our budget to take to that, if we wanted.
And like Sheila and I had conversations about this, and ultimately it comes down to the school committee and what they're willing to put out as a policy. Yeah, the school committee can say, we're not charging anybody anything. But then I'm gonna come back and say, then the school committee has to realize that we are subsidizing town events or private events with our budget that we can't get past when we go to town meeting. And there are several things that our district does for our member towns that we don't charge for. And you can't kind of have it both ways.
Right.
You can't say, we do all of the health insurance management for 3 of our towns. We enroll their employees, we disenroll their employees, we process payments for them, but we don't charge the towns. Well, we don't get support on the town floor. So we just have to, listen, either we're going to subsidize everything and we're going to make it known that we're subsidizing other things, or we're not, and we're going to get our cost recouped. It's like at $52 an hour for a custodian.
No, I understand that.
And
It's like, the buildings have accessibility to kid things. And I hate to see parents pay twice, like they pay for the budget for the buildings, and I know it's extra stuff and above and beyond, but
they
that's
aren't,
what they're gonna say.
but they aren't. But they aren't paying for that because otherwise our building would be closed and district services wouldn't be going on and budget money wouldn't be used. If it's an outside event coming in, then we have a
Oh, no, I
custodian
think
on staff.
it's definitely.
Right, but even if it is the QYBL on a Saturday, again, we can't leave this building open to a group of that size without having somebody in the building.
Yeah.
So
No,
we're
no.
incurring the cost the district wouldn't have had, and that money would have gone to something else.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. Moving to the kitchen, this is current policy that no outside group can use our kitchen without a safe certified person, which we require a staff member if they're going to use any equipment. And so we just want to say, and that employee is in charge when you're coming in to use our kitchen, and they can say, no, you can't use the slicer, or I'll do the slicing for you. So we just want to make sure. If there are other things that a group would like to come in, but they would like technology staff to hook something up for them, or they want field lighting or any costly services, there's going to be other fees for that. I don't see too much of that.
Cheryl? Hi, it's Ned. I've got a question. Is Dextrator still running around the school with his basketball groups?
Yes.
Well, he's the basketball coach.
I mean, his travel teams and,
I'm not aware. I assume yes, that he has his travel. team.
No, the travel teams are through QIBL.
QIBL.
Yeah, they fall under QIBL,
That just makes an appearance everywhere.
which is
Yeah, I agree.
having to do as well for the girls' travel.
Yeah.
teams.
That would come under QIBL, Ned.
okay.
Other things that services that the district won't provide, but some outside groups may need to have, they need police officers. They want to have concessions, they have to talk to us first. And outside restrooms, they're more than willing to use our portable services, but if they're not here, they would be responsible for bringing them in if they are required to have them. So then we kind of looked at, we took the current policy, which outlines, I don't have a copy, but the current policy outlines the hierarchy of what group has preference to using space at a certain time, and it's coming just from their same exact definition she is. Same exact current school committee policies. The school activities take precedence, then official school committee or town meetings, then Quabbin Youth Sports and Playground activities, not local nonprofit, non-commercial organized activities, metropolitan civic, that's more like state agencies type of thing, educational, social, or religious organizations, and then for, that's out of the current policy. We're asking the school committee policy does give a certain number of hours in advance that, oh, is that me? Is it, there is in the current policy that you have to make, request for using the room 48 hours in advance or something. We're not so crazy about that, but we're saying last minute application will be considered, but not guaranteed that you'll get a space. So if somebody calls and says, I need a space tomorrow, if there's anything available, we'll work with them. We won't say, you didn't call us 48 hours in advance. That's not high on our priority list. But in the months of June, when we have high demand on a lot of areas around our buildings, there will be limited use of our grounds in our buildings. A lot of stuff. The regulations governing facility use, most of these are state mandated types of things, and nothing is really crazy. Just pointing out certain general laws that we want them to be aware of. We do not want anybody having food or drink, especially not allowed in the auditorium or gymnasium. I know a lot of the wrestling matches and whatever will have food in the hallway. That's fine. Just don't bring them to the gym or the auditorium. We're asking that if you're having a major function, such as pro musica with a play or something that we need set up and take down, make sure you went the best time in the building to bring anything in that you need to and break anything down if you need to. If school is closed for a snow day or other emergencies, the events will be canceled and it's up to them to reschedule. We're not going to do that. We're not allowing any use of our smart boards, computers, recorders, anything like that. We are asking though for 24-hour cancellation, because if somebody wanted to use our gym and needed, they want to use the gym to have an event and they needed the chairs on the floor, Kevin's team would already have the chairs on the floor ready to go, and then they cancel. Just more work. So we do ask for a little bit of advance notice if you are canceling. Then we can also reschedule it to someone else. Now we move forward on to page 6. We developed a facilities use request application. We think we captured everything we need, but of course, when you go to put something into place for the first time, you go, oh, well, we needed that. I just released a procedure yesterday to all the staff, and Colin goes, I think we need to change this. Like, oh my God, we talked about this for 2 weeks and now we need to change something after I sent it out. We believe we have all the information here that we would need in order to schedule use in space. We are requiring a certificate of insurance that has, so proving that people have insurance coverage, because we don't want to be responsible for an accident that happens on site that really has nothing to do with the school district. So this is going to cause some problems, because just this week, Kevin got an inquiry. Gentlemen would like to have space, one of our gyms to have a pickup basketball game. Well, it's not an organization that wouldn't have insurance coverage. We're not opening our buildings because a group of guys wants to play basketball or people want to play music. Go find somebody's house to do that in, because we want to make sure we protect the district from risk of accident or other type of emergency situation. We thought it would be important to know if this activity that they're planning is going to be open to the general public, and if they'd be charging an admission fee. Know that. And then if the organization is nonprofit or not for profit, they have to supply us with the tax status. And we want to know concessions going to serve, just to kind of like okay, so on the next part, there's a lot of mumbo jumbo, but we want to know who's applying to use the building. So if it's the Boy Scouts, we want to know it's the Boy Scouts that are doing it, but down below is what we decided we would put potential contact list. So sometimes, Peggy, you might be the contact for QYBL this weekend, but you might not be able to make next weekend, so Walter's going to cover for you. Anybody that's going to be, so, but in kind of like an order, so if Kevin gets a call that, like, there's a fire in the building or something, you may not know about it, he needs to know who to call first.
Right.
So this is like some contact information, email address and cell phone, and potential dates if you know them, just so we know who to contact. And we will also provide for them a contact list of our staff as well. We didn't, we our language about taking the class. I think that's.
I would wait for it.
Okay, I'm sorry, page 2, I got
Sorry, I was
right.
I was gonna say.
Page 2 under philosophy, the third paragraph. We've decided to, again, try to minimize risk on the district, that each organization requesting to use the school facilities shall designate one contact person, who is expected to be on site during the entire rental period. If more than one person will actually ask for who it is. That designated person shall be required to participate in school safety and security training for the building used. This training may be in person or virtual. So Kevin, you want to talk about some of the issues that you brought up while we were trying to determine what to do?
Our concern is whoever's going to be in the building we're responsible for is technically responsible for the people that are in the building. So we're going to put together a small training class, basically to give them the highlights of the building, where emergency stuff is, how to get out of the building, means of egress, whether that's blocked, they can go to this secondary, that type of thing. To make sure that they are responsible for everyone's there, they make sure they get everybody out that's there, but also understand the building, if there's an alarm, there's a water leak, something. Number one, what you should do to get people out of the way, contact this person first, situation, 911, that kind of stuff. Where the AEDs is that kind of.
So we're thinking that we may even be able to do this like in a video, where we can show people where things are and then have handouts of this is, if this happens, then Kevin's contact information, Pete Coppelino's contact information, this particular building at the elementary schools. Of course, Kevin goes at the top and we George because it's this particular school, whoever can get there fastest in an emergency situation. But also let them know, make sure that no doors are left open, make sure that, you don't put a chair in the door. You make sure the doors are all closed when you leave, the lights are all off, that kind of thing. So not only safety and security, but also your responsibility to make sure the building's safe after you leave. We think we can get something like that together. We can just send them by email and they sign off that they've read it and they're willing to be that responsible. Because you could have a contact person that goes through this and reads this and says, I don't want that responsibility. I just want to go watch the kids play. And then somebody else will have to step up and take that responsibility. Especially if there's not going to be a custodian on site.
I have a question. I'm the treasurer of a senior athletic association, and we're looking for a place to play volleyball. First off, would that be a conflict of interest if I use one of our gyms?
Not if you go through the process.
We're a nonprofit, that we're from the IRS. And I don't think the guys would drive to New Braintree, to be honest with you, because they're mostly from Worcester, but we're without a place to play volleyball. We usually play twice a week, in the morning, like from 9 to 11, something like that. So that would be the schedule. So first off, in Braintree, do volleyball, there's, they have a net and facilities and stuff. It does.
In the gym, the sport.
I mean, we were playing at an old Becker College gym last year, and we set it up and took it down, swept the floor and down. So we were pretty good facilities. So, all right, it's good to know. I'll run it by my members. Is it available at time today?
Well, currently, I think the preschool may use it, the postgrads may use it from time to time, but we would have to see what, I think it might be flexible, maybe not so much preschool, but we can generally check into it and see if you have an interest.
Okay, all right.
During the week? During the week, yeah. My only concern would be,
That's what
we have to have 4 use for you.
I would say no. I mean, why would we allow, during the school day, when there's students in the building in New Braintree, but we can't do that anywhere else? Why would we do that?
Well, I think
I mean, it's still a school building.
Yeah, I don't want to see special treatment.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that it would be special treatment, I'm just saying that we, New Braintree is an underutilized building. So we are trying to find partners to utilize that space. I think we would have to think about it. There definitely are some things that, cause me to have pause, like there's general public in the building, but we have town elections in our buildings where the general public comes into our buildings and uses our space while school is in session, and that is allowed. So I think it would be a unique circumstance that we've never done before. And I would say that we would consider it, but, we want to learn a lot more.
I think that the likelihood of us going to New Braintree is pretty low, but, right now we're kind of desperate for a place to place.
Didn't Lester just get all those buildings at Becker?
They did, but Becker, the town of Leicester is going to use, the school department's going to use it, so the gym that we were using, they're going to use it. It's a standalone building, just a gym. So we thought we could use it. We'd be happy to pay, even though we're a nonprofit, we would definitely pay money, but not a lot, have a lot, but, anyway, that's a whole other thing. I guess the first thing would be, if my guys want to go and just schedule the work and then calls and stuff. Okay, thank you.
After the application that gets signed off, then we have a section for the plant facilities office as a checkbox of what group it has been determined the applicant is in, whether fees are applicable, that they received a certificate of insurance, and there's the expiration date, make sure it hasn't, and then a place where they can figure out how much potentially the bill would be to let the person know, but also later go back here in order to create an invoice. I just wanted something. We decided that especially during COVID and before COVID, we kind of disseminated this school facilities use out to principals in the buildings. And we found that isn't quite working for us in an equity manner, that people are getting the same services and charges and everything. And we'd like to bring that all back. And these regulations are written that the facilities department will go back to, this is what we used to do before, to scheduling every building. Because sometimes not everything is on a school calendar and things get double booked, but this also gives an overview of the entire district and its space. That's why we're here today, because we got totally booked over there. Just so it's in one office, and one office is doing the billing. That's something we may not even know if something's going on in an elementary school, and then we find out and the person should have been paid even by the new regulations and they weren't being charged. And when we found out, we're like, oh my God, I can't pay that. And we were like, okay, on hold, because we're working through a new policy. But I think it would be better organized and managed with this. So that's the innovation. Have any questions? Now, did you get this? I emailed it to you yesterday.
I didn't find it. I didn't look for it though, so I'll pick it up sometime.
So, I know there's a lot here to get through, but between now and when we bring it to Dr. Allen on Monday, if there's any questions or whatever, I can answer them before you take a formalized. So there's one change to the policy, I think. So one red thing on the policy. And then the regulations that are on file right now, we would delete and we would replace it with this entire. If anybody has any questions, if you email them to me, then I'll make sure that I have them before we go to policy.
I guess next is the capital plan review.
Actually, we're not really prepared to talk too much about that today, but what I plan to do is when we did our walkthroughs of the buildings, put together all my notes, come up with a draft capital plan. A lot of what we had worked through last year to hopefully work on some projects was all cut out of the budget, so we'll add in what we found when we walked through. I happen to be at Ocam Center School today with the school nutrition director, just going over some things, and that back parking lot. So that back roadway to the back of the building, we need to have that looked at because we did make some minor changes before we opened school because vans were having a hard time getting there, unloading students that are on wheelchairs and getting in. So we did a whole ramp and part of the parking lot where they can get dismounted from the van. And in the front also, there was some access areas that were being done by Kevin and his team, but that back parking lot happened to be Chris's, we were walking through. He said it's so bad out there, and when it gets colder and the frost heaves, it just lifts up even more, and it's very difficult, not only to plow, but also when vehicles have to go back there, it's all like this. So I think we need to kind of look at most of our parking lots in the district and going to towns and say, listen, we need some work done. We need work done on this parking lot. We did a lot, Kevin's team did a lot of kind of getting areas around this building fixed over the summer, but we really need to start looking at some infrastructure things when we build that capital. So hopefully a month or two down the road, we can look at a draft capital.
That would be a town meeting. Probably.
But,
That would be a
oh,
town meeting.
yeah, the only reason we needed to do something to get the students in wheelchairs in comfortably, and so we were able to do that under the $5,000 cap. So that's why we did that. But doing an area of that big is what we were.
Well, the reason I ask is because there's that wall too in the back that looks like it's going to be expensive. I do assume it's pretty expensive. I'm wondering if we should have the select board meet with us down there someday and take a look at it, because I know they like to know things ahead of time, even if we're not asking for the money. They because they do have they have a capital stabilization. That's that would be enough to pay for it.
I think we could probably do that with a meeting, right? And maybe have a meeting at Ocam if there would be space for us, and then invite them to come and take a look at that, because that definitely is a really bad situation. When we were in Hubbardston, the loading dock area in Hubbardston, that's kind of like, it's a roadway that goes around the Slade buildings to the senior center. And it was so bad that trucks are having issues going in and out. And we brought that to their attention. That's a little easier because it's like they meet right in that building. So they understood. And they got that done for us. That was very nice. Although, could you talk about the roof leaking right over that doorway? Yeah.
Talk about it.
You know, yeah. So Carrie took a picture and the guy came up to deliver and something happened to the new roof and there was just a sheet of water coming down on the door. Inside the dock. So, yes. But that sounds like a good idea. So we have a meeting over there and then invite them to come for a certain period before we start or whatever, and begin the meeting, show them what we're talking about and have an initial discussion.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Maybe the next meeting even, just do when weather's good. Also see when they're available, for the people who work. Well, that's very.
See when they're available.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Contact them.
Yes, I think that would be a good idea, because they may not be.
Okay.
No problem.
I think they're all retired, but not.
As part of the capital plan review, I guess there's not a separate article, we wanted to talk about the press box for Alumni Stadium. I don't know. Did you have a presentation?
I have a little presentation that I can pull up just with some pictures. It's, but we have been, how many years now has it been?
I think we're on year 4. Talking about it.
We sort of stopped talking about it during COVID because obviously we weren't going to do anything. But we have, as those of you who attend our athletic events on Alumni Field probably know, our bleachers are super low. And also, we do not have any real press box, which is.
I see the folding chair.
We have a wonderful, this window of our sound of the low features and the scaffolding on the far side of the
Yeah,
field.
we've got some pictures of those.
We have,
Put it over there.
Do you want to look out the window?
Can you see it?
seriously, you can actually see the
See
two
the
chairs
folded chairs?
and the table that I took from the high school gym, the scores table up top.
Oh,
24 feet high, three sections of 8-foot scaffolding.
So we've been using that for a number of years. I think.
now would you put this, a scorer up there too?
So, yeah. Sheila, I
Let
don't
me
know
just
if
put
you
up,
have-
I'll pull up the
I
presentation.
tried to add a bunch of stuff into slide
Do I
2.
have to?
Oh, okay.
that?
That, I can, I think you probably have to enable, screen sharing. Let me just see, maybe I can, so also.
They can just do that on the.
So for football, it has to be a certified official who is the actual timer because they need to know all the hand signals and wind the clock and everything else. So it's a certified official. I have to put something out each year to our assigner to ask for someone nimble and able and not scared of heights. Because if they stood in the top row of the bleachers, they literally couldn't see the action on the near side of the field.
Sure.
And they end up, we have stoppages of play and can you please restart the clock? Can you please reset this? And the poor guy in the bleachers can't see. So last week I had a nice young new official. He climbed up there. I'll cross my fingers and I usually call him ahead of time. We have a game tomorrow night and I'll touch base with him. How you feel about heights?
So it's far less than ideal, and honestly,
How is it in the wind? I mean, it's, I mean, at the stable,
Pretty much what you would think it would be.
yeah, it's not, I mean, it's so far from ideal that you can't even.
no,
describe
I
it
can
as
imagine.
anything that, and honestly, quite frankly, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's really embarrassing. I mean, we have this beautiful facility. We have been so fortunate to have the community support and the support of the school committee to keep our facilities in top-notch shape. And yet we have this undescribably inadequate athletic facility that when you even see the pictures of our neighbors, you're gonna say, wow, it's pretty embarrassing. And it puts our athletes at a disadvantage, to be really honest. And Mark can speak to that much more clearly than I can, but and so we just put together a little notes that Mark put in. Oh, he's got some. Oh, you added a picture. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. Really just to sort of frame the discussion around why we need.
Yep, so just, I would say, why the press box, it's shelter, clearly, an vantage point to observe the entire game, the media, necessary officials, safe view, necessary include that scoreboard operator, so for football, but also for other sports, that we use it for boys and girls soccer. We have towards the end of the seasons used it for field hockey and tournament games. They do have their own field, which is in much different, better shape and cut down lower for them for field hockey. So they don't use alumni quite as much, but in the spring, we have large track events here. The announcer, Rich Zonoritis, has been kind enough to always volunteer to announce football games. If you're within 10 miles of school, you can probably hear it on Friday night now that we have the new sound system. He was in a deer stand the last 2 years, legitimately in a deer stand, so that he could be by himself without the coordinators next to him on the scaffolding. And it was pretty tight up there, so he preferred the deer stand. We do have a Huddle camera feed that uses something called Huddle Assist that we pay for as a school for all our teams. And what it does is it uses the kids' numbers to tag who they are and all of their stats during the course of a girls soccer, boys soccer, or football game. And currently, I probably get, this morning I got 40 tag alerts that number not able to be seen, number not able to be seen. And it's because we're trying to take from a big from a big tripod from the sideline right now, or from the top of the scaffolding. And it's just not adequate for what we have for technology now for the kids to make their own highlight films, to make their own, for coaches to use it tactically too. It doesn't work very well for what we have. The sound equipment that we have stored currently in the ticket booth, we were able to buy last year and had planned ahead to have enough wiring and done a lot of Kevin's group has done a lot of the electrical ahead of time and planned for the press box.
Would it be on that side of the field?
It would be on the close side, the parking lot
Okay.
side. So whatever project, when it happens, really wouldn't disrupt. It could be going on at a time, even if it's not necessarily just during July, ideally, or August.
Would space down low be used for something else?
So the idea would be that we'd be adding 15 rows in the center, so 33 feet wide, and it adds about 275 additional seating area, but it goes up 15 rows rather than 6. So if I stand at 6'4" on the top row, I can barely see over our team standing on the sideline to see the action that's going on. So even from that picture right there with the students, the kids in the first 3 or 4 rows, everyone stands the whole time. No one sits in the bleachers, and they can't see any of the action on the near side of the field. Only the kids, probably the top row, can see some, and that's 6 rows up. So the new section of bleachers that would have to go up to the press box to make it, you know, to set it up would be 15 rows high and 33 feet wide. So we really add a good section to the
We have
middle.
a picture at the end of the
Okay.
presentation that will give
No,
you
I was
an
thinking on
idea.
the parking lot side, is there something, you know how some places have concessions or
Oh, yeah.
bathrooms or,
Oh.
you know, we can't do that. That's more than.
That'd be lovely. Listen, I'll let you take over.
We can add that.
I'm really.
Phase 2, maybe, phase 2.
Stone Cow come over and put one of those.
Yeah.
I've been going to a lot of the different schools. I mean, I was shocked when I went to South High School the other day and,
Oh,
oh my God, I'm like, why don't we have this?
have you seen their gym?
No, but I mean, just the field outside was enough to make me cringe, wanting to come back here and blast you. You know, I mean, you have to keep up with the times. I mean, that's the sad thing.
I was able to send Teresa and Sheila some pictures in here of all of our surrounding. Oh, yeah.
This is our scaffolding, and this is the view from the.
Yeah, but just to
of
take,
our bleachers from our staff. Just so you can see that there's no incline. You've seen some of these other pictures where the actual, the bottom row of the bleachers in other schools is actually elevated from the field. So that, you know, the fence doesn't necessarily obstruct the view, and the players that are on the field don't obstruct the view. We're not going to accomplish that with this project, but this will be much better. So these are, as you can see, Athol and Maher.
the Maher one I was involved in myself, because that went in 2005 when I was the athletic director.
So
Now,
you
would
can,
this be work for all sports, like including baseball, things like that, or just the field sports?
Just for out here on alumni, it would be just on alumni.
I guess you don't really do that so much.
so this is Narragansett on the left and Oakmont, so that's Ashburnham, Westminster on the right. And Templeton, Phillipston, left there. And then Hudson, Gardner.
Gardner's is new last year, 2 years ago. Their other side of bleachers were condemned. This was part of their building project for the turf field and track.
So you can see on the Gardner, there aren't those seats that go right to the ground like ours
Right.
do. They're not even there.
Right.
So the first row seats right over. the fence.
Yeah.
So will we
And you can
be
even see
doing
in
new, all
Oakmont.
new seats
No,
or just a section?
Just the center section to go up to the press box, and then you would almost see, yeah, like wings and that sort of,
This would be,
yeah.
I mean, that's just, we had Teresa Salvador just come up with a schematic that would help you see those 2 center sections there that Mark described. We'll take the 2 center sections out of our current bleachers and insert this, but the 2 lower sections, the 4 lower sections on the side will be the existing.
And how are the existing bleachers? Are they, I'm supposed to say, no, they're not very good, so we can get on new bleachers. Days, dog days.
Yeah, this is.
In an ideal world, they would be raised off the
Yeah.
ground. The bleachers themselves are in good shape. Yeah.
There's nothing to say that when we go to the towns for this, because we most likely will have to borrow some kind of money for
Right.
this. And there's no reason you couldn't go and have all brand new seating that raises everything up while you're there as one
As one
version, and
option.
then the
And
other.
then you might have to modify if we don't get what we need, yeah.
And then, right, and then the other option is, here, I mean, there's an opportunity to.
Just do it right, yeah. Well, I'm not sure, I mean, I truly think probably should be equal to.
Now, we straightened out like maybe a handicap accessible, we have to do that, or?
Oh, yeah, you don't have to.
Oh, absolutely.
So there is a design done on it already. Engineers already looked at it, done a design, there's preliminary numbers from 2 years ago on concrete work and stabilization needs to be done, that kind of stuff, so. A lot of the preliminary stuff is done, will have to be revisited based on today's times and pricing, obviously.
Yeah, personally, I think, athletics is so important. I mean, in any school, but Quadrant is really centered around it a lot, and this would be, I think this is kind of thing is important for the school.
I agree, and in the current footprint that we're using and using in the staffing, is just there's, I've been on for about an hour as to whether we should.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a disaster waiting to happen, quite frankly. It's gone on far too long, and
I
so
thought we talked about this and we had all kind of agreed at one time, did we not?
we talked about it before COVID, but
Well, when we first started talking about this, we had an estimated cost.
Right.
And then when the quote really came in, at that point, we're like, oh my God, this is huge. And that was pre-COVID. So now we have to go out and get another quote. I think we're gonna be shocked at how high that quote is now. The supplies that will cost to a project.
one of the things that Mark and I both believe is that, we can do some significant fundraising to support this. We have a lot of local alumni. We don't have an alumni association. That's one goal that I have, is start to develop an alumni association. And I honestly think that this could be the impetus for starting that, to support a lot of things that we need. But we do think that we could raise a good amount of money, not only from our alumni, but from other organizations potentially as well. But that's really why we want to start as soon as possible, to start to, have for the blessing of the committee to begin to initiate fundraising and initiate conversations with the communities and the town leadership, because as Cheryl said, ultimately we likely will have to borrow money, some of the money to support this, and we have to have the permissions of all of the towns that have to vote to allow us to borrow.
Does that have to be, like when we go to budget?
No, that has to be every.
All five would have to say
Because
yes.
remember, they're not only voting to allow us to borrow, they're voting to pay back.
No, I know.
So it has to be 5 out of 5 when you borrow.
So I do think, I would hang on the fact that it's alumni field that we're improving. And I think we do have, a lot of people that have reached out over time, asking to donate specifically to certain programs, or even in general to the athletic program, and to have something for it to go towards in an area, maybe on the backside, or an area on the press box to recognize those folks, I think would be really visible and pretty easy to do.
Yeah, we were just sort of kicking around the idea that on the back of that, we had a really large sign made where donors could be
Sponsors, yeah.
recognized. Because I do think there are lots of individuals, but there are also many businesses in our community that have supported the athletic program, individual students over the years that I think would be willing to support this as well. And I think even, I hope, let me put it that way, I hope that when town officials and others see the stark contrast between what our facility is and what our competitors' facilities is and our neighboring facility is, I think they would have, I hope that they would have a similar reaction. of course, it's gonna
You're
be.
gonna have some that just won't do it. I mean, yeah. Now, is there any, like with SBA, there's nothing like that that we can do, or? Nothing to get from the state?
From the
anywhere?
state, not through anything like this. We were doing a new building
Yeah,
project.
we're having a whole brand new high school.
That's
It's
how
so
Gardner
good,
got
isn't it?
theirs, right?
You do a lot.
Theirs went to bond through the town, city of Gardner. Is
Oh,
what
but it
they're,
wasn't part of their,
no, I think theirs was through the city of Gardner. When I was at Mar, ours was through the building project at 78% reimbursed.
Right, right, right.
So we raised 240,000 for a $1.7 million turf track, all of that. That was.
I know, when I was talking to a guy at South High, and it only cost them 33 million to do that. Well, I mean, if you saw it,
33 million?
yeah. But I mean, you go to Worcester, I'm just shocked at all the turf fields
Foley
throughout the city.
Stadium was used by two teams Friday, two teams Saturday every weekend, and South, and we've played South and North in the last couple of years on our schedule. We have North High on our schedule this year. So our kids go to Foley.
But there are also just fields, a turf field in the city of Worcester, just for the community kind of thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
So, we need a motion, I assume, to put this forward.
I think we would go forward to policy.
if you, to policy, I wouldn't say this would go to policy necessarily.
Oh,
I would,
Oh, this
the
year?
press
Oh,
box,
no, no.
this would go to the full committee. For, I think, we're really just looking for a recommendation to move forward with the planning and the investigation. Regarding the overall cost, what it would cost. I know Cheryl will reach out to, figure out if we were to borrow X amount of dollars today, this is what it would cost. These are our financing options, just to start to gather that information. But I think, our initial immediate steps, aside from finding out what is this really going to cost now, would be to start to advertise this, talk about it, and begin some fundraising.
Are there any guesstimations about what it would cost? Kevin?
Depending on what,
It's the quote we had is before COVID, so.
Yeah.
no, the latest quote we have is from June.
You have one.
Yeah, from June 2022, and that's when it went up by, we saw it from 2019, it went up like,
I didn't see that. What's that in price?
the June 2022 was with the bleachers 230. Without some of the other excavating that came in at 50, so we were thinking at least 300,000 for, this
So
is,
that whole.
no, this is a modular 8x24 steel press box that comes pre-wired, not, it's
Pre-wired,
yeah.
preheat,
it's
pre-com.
it's plug and play
Mhm.
on piers. The piers would be, the concrete cost went up like 50% from 2019 to 2022.
It's very similar to a module.
Yeah, it's
A lot of the work on it, honestly, is dealing with the concrete, prepping it,
Mhm.
but other than that, it's kind of.
so, and by the time we get to it, you can call it 350,000 to give us, but in the big, that's a general, very general before we get it out.
And the other aspect of that is all the town businesses you got, you may end up, getting someone who wants to donate something as far as excavation, that has too.
Them themselves?
But their business. stuff.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that would work.
Yeah, so we will, more to come on that, but. We, I think Kevin and Mark, I mean, if we were to able to sort of put this on the fast track. We think it's possible that if all the pieces came together and, we got adequate information. And we put this, was approved at the annual town meetings, the project potentially could go forward over the summer. But. Again, that's.
I mean, it's
that's sort
such
of
a
fact.
safety issue, that's a big,
Liability.
yeah. I mean, one guy falling out of that thing could kill us.
Gardner's offensive coordinator is about 6'2", 350. He looked at me and shook his head, and he stood in the corner of the bleachers rather than go up there.
Yeah.
I told him I appreciated that.
And I don't want to sell it just for football, you know,
No, not at all.
it's got to really be sold as a big picture.
We've got field hockey, we've got soccer.
Well, we've had situations, to be honest with you, we've had situations where we wanted to take the entire student body out there and put them in the bleachers and they won't fit. So we had a few years back, we had a military air show that was organized here. And we couldn't put all the kids, we brought them all out there, some of them was out on the track. I mean, it was fine, but we can't even put up the entire student body out there for if we wanted to do some sort of outdoor event with all of the students in the building. And we don't have any place in the building where we can assemble the entire student body. So the high school gym is, I think, our greatest capacity for seating, but we can't put the entire student body in the high school gym at one time. So this would help with something like that. We might use it from time to time during the school day for some special event where we assembled all the students. Exactly.
And now we do have the sound system that is already out there to be able to house that safely too, that with, expensive gear, and to house it safely and put it into a press box where you could open the door and close the door at the end of the night at 9:30 on tomorrow night would be lovely.
I just think of one person falling off there, the liability would be like,
I think the overall usage increases to be have a lot more options. Middle school graduation. There was, I don't know, 100 kids, parents sitting on the lawn because there wasn't enough room for them.
well, we don't know who's in need. I mean, we've been talking about it. I thought we had already started to move forward myself.
Well, we did, but we stalled
Yeah.
a little bit. But now put it on the fast track as fast as we can. Good.
I support it, Walter.
Okay, so. Do we need a motion to recommend it or
I think so. I think it would have to be
to
helpful.
recommend that we would move forward?
Move forward with the press box project.
Anybody want to make that motion?
I make it.
Okay, thanks.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Or do we have to do a roll call?
Can you hear us, Ned? Are you in
Aye, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Unanimous, okay.
One question that I do have for you, and I don't know if this is the place or, but you're here and I can say it. Why can't we have field hockey games at night over here during the season? I mean,
Because
kids
it's
have
not-
come to me and said, he won't let us do that, and they've come to you. I know the seniors have and different things, and they should, I mean, as a parent, sometimes I couldn't get to those day games. I'm just asking.
They can. The surface is not something that they would like for field hockey currently.
Because it's so chewed up.
Yeah, and it's not football, it's soccer. We have
Yeah, yeah,
a
no, I
soccer
agree.
game on today. I got soccer and football at
So we
tomorrow.
would maintain to the heights of the grass and everything else.
So it's the height of the grass. What we have done in the past is come tournament time, or even this year, we have Central Mass tournament and then state tournament.
Mhm.
It's the end of October and, we talk with facilities, what's it look like, how we doing, are we able to roll, because we have to roll it.
Yeah.
And as soon as we roll it and cut it down, it's done for soccer and football. For 3 sports, it's in trouble for November if we do it early. So it is something that we have done, and it's not a surface that any of their coaches, despite what the girls think, any of their coaches would prefer to play on
Oh,
either.
no,
If the ball is bouncing right over their sticks. Officials are very strict in field hockey.
Yeah.
And they are none too pleased when they come out here and see divots and see other things on that field. That's the answer. And the girls are prepared.
I know we've done it in the past.
We have, yeah, no, we've done it. We did it 2 years ago when we lost to Shrewsbury 1-0 in the tournament. Was out here at night, but that was in early November. So by that time of year, there's probably 8 more soccer games that happen between their senior night and that tournament game.
Kevin, to put in a turf field, what kind of money is that?
Depends if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
looking at something like Auburn, you're over. And then you gotta add in the maintenance aspect of that as well.
Yeah.
Because every year you're adding that over to it and everything else.
I'm hearing a lot of problems they have with turf fields as far as the compaction they have to be pressure tested and fixed in both, different spots because they're too hard.
It's a GMAX rating.
There's head injuries, kids falling on it. And it's much harder than a grass. So I'm not a big fan of stuff. I know there's no maintenance really, no routine grass cutting, water, something like that. I'd have to do this.
It's playing on. Depends on what you're used to, I guess. I mean, you've got hard pan out there on the field, which people all do.
Especially in November.
Yeah.
That GMAX
Right.
rating though, from September, October, is the head injury impact is far less on a grass field than it is on turf. Regardless of what turf substance you have, whether you have the rubber pellets or the sand fill. But come November, like all bets are off, in November, it could be frozen.
Yeah.
Completely frozen in the middle of November. When we're playing on it.
True.
But there are also many times you can't play on the fields due to weather conditions, and turf can give you a better option, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm all for, I'm just looking at it from all the other schools that are around us that are doing it and keeping up with the Joneses, I guess. I want to be appealing and have the kids have what they have, Because it's a whole different game
I think the most
on
glaring,
turf than it is on grass.
the most glaring sport is field.
Yeah.
It's very evident when teams come here and are stuck playing on our grass,
Right,
which is in wonderful shape and cut way down and like a putting green.
yeah,
That they don't play well when they come here. In turn, we have to turn around and try to get a couple extra away games for our kids so that they're ready for turf towards the end of the season. Our schedule sets up because we know that every neutral site game is always going to be on
for
turf.
sure.
So that's sort of how we have to backload our schedule, which is why senior night comes early.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have motion to adjourn.
Wait, I have one more question for you. Lunches in Oakland, is that all squared away? I know that there were days, or there was a day, kids got on and I guess a couple of grades didn't have lunch.
That's not accurate
I know, they didn't have 100% of what they were thinking they were getting.
because we had a conversation with Trisha.
Mhm.
In OCAM, the teachers fill out forms for the kitchen. That particular day, 2 teachers did not do it at all.
Oh, okay.
Another plugged it in on the wrong day. So we call up the day on the screen, the teacher put it in the wrong day. So there was 3 whole classes that didn't have a lunch. But everyone got something to eat. I was over there for breakfast today and they had more breakfast served today than any day this year so far. It was 75 kids. So they didn't run out. If we have the knowledge, we're ready.
Okay,
But it wasn't because we didn't have the food, it was because we didn't have the time.
gotcha, okay. But everything's still coming from Hardwick, right?
Yes, and it's going to maintain that way unless we can get our participation up there because they're serving, today was the highest, they generally serve in the 60s for breakfast. The highest they've had for lunch is 91 since school started. We can't afford to have a whole team working there to serve 91 lunches. It's
Then the
just
reasoning is
impossible.
just because most parents provide lunch, or, I mean, has there been any look into why numbers are low?
I guess we could send out a survey.
Send out a survey.
That would be the only way we would do it. Yes, I think that. We have the same concerns here. We've been getting complaints from parents here. That kids aren't eating, so.
And it's free.
Well, that's one of Carrie's concerns, that she believes that we should be serving somewhere between 70 to 75% because it's free. And the highest we're serving is here, which is still low, below 50%. So she is concerned why we're not serving what we should be serving, she thinks, when it's free for everyone.
Well, maybe we do it district-wide survey. We could do it too, you know, questions about increased lunch participation.
You know, is it the food? Is it, you know, I'm just saying, is it, what is it?
Yeah.
That these people,
One thing Carrie always says is especially for the elementary schools, it's the new lunchbox syndrome. So everybody gets a new lunchbox, so it's only still September,
yeah,
it's only been a month. She usually sees an increase in participation as moms and dads, you know, don't
Get
want to
busier.
don't want to make lunch anymore, or it's lost its appeal. So if that's a general cycle that happens each year. If we see, we're still here in end of October, November. Yeah, no, won't hurt a lot.
No.
This information that we otherwise don't have.
because I had also heard that some of the lunch materials coming over from Hardwick, when they get there, they're kind of solid. You know, like, because, you know, it's heated up in that thing and sealed, and I don't know if that's an issue.
Everything is heated up and filled everywhere.
Okay.
So it's
I'm
not different
just
there.
saying, this is what parents have said.
It's not different there, because they're baking and sealing and other schools as well.
But I'm just saying, is that an issue?
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll know what
Thanks. Not that my granddaughter will ever eat lunch at school, she won't. She's a really.
Okay, I think we're through. Motion to adjourn.
Do we want to set a schedule?
Do we want to set another meeting?
Yes, sure.
Want to try to schedule that one for Oakham Center School.
I think you could call for and see if anybody's available during the day. If we wanted to wait, I just thought we wanted to get the schedule on the calendar.
I
If
think,
we could, it
yeah,
would be
I
great.
think if we're gonna do the capital plan, we probably shouldn't do that. with other things, right?
I'm not thinking we'll have anything ready for the capital plan next month,
Okay,
maybe a little bit.
so. You should go.
You want to wait until you contact the select board and then
Okay,
maybe send
you want-
something to Jess?
And then
And
I'll
then we'll see.
let Jessica know.
Okay, then we can see. she goes around.
Do we want to choose a date for the capital plan meeting in November at this point, at least get that meeting on the books?
Or December.
Or December?
Probably when we'll move into budget about that done, so. There's gonna be a lot of scheduling for salaries, because we don't have a contract for next year, so it's gonna be a lot of work. Oh, so slow, these things.
We're talking November or December.
November.
Yeah, see that I can't make it to 23rd.
Is it at the end of the month, like the 29th? What day is better for everybody?
29th works for me.
29th?
Is it Tuesday?
I'll have to zoom in. Probably more.
Oh, that's, it's still there, right? The 29th then? Tentatively?
Same time or
Earlier?
Whatever.
9:30?
9:30?
Ed, how about you? November 29th?
Was it 10:30 for a specific reason today?
It was because I had another
Oh.
commitment. And then I didn't make it anyway, so.
You can always change it. Yeah.
What time then?
Sorry?
What time?
Oh, What we usually, 9:30?
9:30?
Does that work for you, Peggy?
Yeah.
9:30, okay, Right.
Do you think that there would be state funding for the new projects, you know, like, if schools? Right?
2005 Mara one was through something through Congressman Over. That's how I don't remember how, just for the bleachers. Because those came in after, which are, we didn't have them for like a year or two. I don't know what it was.
Sometimes you can get somebody
It's a
to
long time
put
ago.
a little bit of money.
Yeah, with our state rep.
Right, that happens. I just saw something. Was it on MASC about a district that got. a big sum of money for legislation, and it's just something they tap on.
Who did this presentation? Did you have this, Sheila?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe you guys can suggest that you should put it with the minute with the.
Oh, I will, yes,
online,
sure.
Post it online. Yeah. Bye, Ned.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Ned?
Yeah,
Have a good one. I think we're
you
done.
too.
Okay.